The buzzword sometime back was a word called re-engineering. At least in some maybe a decade ago or some or more than that, many people and institutions and organizations around the world, more so in a country like India, we were obsessed with this word called re-engineering. So I thought, why not I speak something for some time so that people in B schools, students in B schools would appreciate uh, what this re-engineering is all about. So you must understand that the world changes with time, and in every passing year, business organizations face various kinds of challenges, which which begin to show with time. I hope I'm getting myself clear, which simply means that certain strategic changes might be necessary for organizations so that it adjusts to the needs of the environment. Now, re-engineering is one such technique or one such approach or one such field of study. I don't know to what extent organizations have implemented re-engineering and succeeded, but see, you should understand that so many times we re-engineer so many things without understanding that we are re-engineering them. That is the crux of the matter. Take a simple example like the Indian Railways. Some time back, it used to take a lot of time to reserve a ticket. Now, most probably, you've got a reservation counter which is very near to your house, or even you do it online. What used to take 3 days or more than that, more time to carry out a simple activity like today is done in a matter of minutes online or by using technology. So re-engineering happens, but because I've not defined your words re-engineering. But before that, I'm just trying to give you certain examples of certain situations where we have made marked improvements in the way we operate. Maybe the growth of handheld devices and such kinds of technologies uh, make business institutions today work in a more nimble and fast manner than what they did just say a decade ago. Nonetheless, we need to understand words like re-engineering at least as a part of being a management or a business professional. Let me define to you what is re-engineering. Re-engineering, this word re-engineering is understood in various ways by various by various people. There is a layman understanding of re-engineering and there's a professional understanding of re-engineering. This concept called re-engineering was coined by Michael Hammer and James Champy in a book that they wrote, Re-engineering the Corporation, about which I had some exposure to. Now, what is re-engineering? Re-engineering is first of all a process-driven activity. Re-engineering, re-engineering is the activity of improving a process from its current state of functioning drastically so that it functions much more effectively than what it did before it was re-engineered. I'll repeat this word again. Re-engineering is the activity of realigning, redesigning, reorienting strategically changing any process so that it works with drastic improvements. Drastic improvements is not a marginal improvement. It is not improvement of a small kind or of an incremental kind. Definitely, the word is opposite of incremental. It is a progress of a drastic kind. Take a simple example of this because this word re-engineering has its roots in engineering. I won't say it's not totally. It is linked with the word called engineering. In what way? Previously, a train would take you from 3,000 kilometers. It takes, say, some 40-50 hours to traverse. A re-engineered solution of that is definitely an airplane, which covers the journey in just 3 hours time. It is definitely a re-engineered solution if you would like to look at it that way. That's why, as I told you, mankind has always re-engineered itself from time to time, though we don't use the word re-engineering or understand the way we use the word the way it's spoken. But please understand this. This is the meaning of the word re-engineering. I am improving a process drastically. What happens as a result of improving the process drastically? Customer gets value. What is the meaning of value? Value for customer gets is benefits by price. Customer is getting certain benefits and he's paying a price. Price can be cost, price can be time, price can be psychic cost. Cost can be money, cost can be time, and cost can be psychic cost. Psychic cost means you are made to. I get upset if if I don't get something on time, or if a processor delivers a wrong kind of product to me by some mistake. It creates a psychic cost. Now I'm trying to mitigate these three costs in the way I operate in a re-engineered solution. I try to reduce this cost to a very large extent so that customer gets drastic improvement in value. I think I have somewhere defined to you what is re-engineering, but I'll go slightly into the background of this case, of this issue. Why do we need to re-engineer? Much of our manufacturing and processes are largely mired or dwell in some of the concepts of division of labor which we used very effectively to run industrial institutions of the past. We never had process orientation. An absence of process orientation is okay in as much as you don't have some kind of a competition. Division of labor by itself has today become not a very effective tool in the way we run organizations and business. Please read me correctly. I don't say that we look. The focus is not just on division of labor. The focus is on processes. I understand that any performing organization has got various kinds of processes, and I try to understand those processes and I try to work on them so that customer gets value. Value is a reduction of the economic cost, the psychic cost, and the time cost. When I fly a plane, I'm getting drastic benefits, unlike traveling by a train on all these three fronts. I also have a word called customer delivered value. Customer delivered value, in fact, means all these three things of cost that I mentioned. If any of these costs are high, the psychic cost is very high. Then the value of the customer more precisely, customer delivered value comes down. I hope I've given you some background. I've got what is called as process orientation. That means I'm looking at the organization from the viewpoint of processes, and I'm trying to not just fix this process, see that these processes run fairly well, so that there is higher degree of customer delivered value. I don't know if I'm trying to write kind of an example. Alexander the Great, he used to alter certain processes very drastically to give very high drastic benefits. The Battle of Hydaspes, where he was fighting Porus on the banks of the river Jhelum, Porus had with him war elephants which were trampling the soldiers of Alexander left and right. First time Alexander was facing war elephants in his conquest. He understood the process. The process was not working right. That means he's finding the difficulty. He's making heavy losses in his process of attacking elephants. Or even you can say elephants are attacking his people. So he designed immediately something called as phalanx. Phalanx is for every he reorganized his entire team of people and people with spears. He organized a set of people to attack any given elephant. If he could see 50 elephants, there were 50 phalanx. Such an organization of people was called as phalanx. And he, before long, he was able to subdue the elephants because 20 people attacked one elephant. And he won the Battle of Hydaspes narrowly. I don't know if this is called a re-engineering solution. I think it's definitely an example of reorganization, but he definitely made a strategic change, strategic shift almost suddenly from within in a very short time. To me, it also you can use the word re-engineered solution because he got some kind of drastic benefits by reorganizing people and subduing a large number of elephants by using manpower. Today we use technology. Technology is a large enabler in the overall aspect of re-engineering, if you might so call it. I hope we are not losing focus on this word called re-engineering. I'll define this word called re-engineering again. Re-engineering is the activity of redesigning, reorienting, reorganizing any given process so that it gives you drastic improvements. It is not marginal or incremental improvements that we are looking for. We are looking for drastic improvements. Is this possible? Well, that's an issue that we have to see. Why do I do re-engineer? So that I can improve customer delivered value, or more generally value to the customer. In a competitive environment, I'm working better than others, which puts me as a customer's most preferred service provider, if you might like to say so. In India, I must take the names of Mr. Ganesh Natarajan and Mr. M.S. Jayaraman, who have written a book with many Indian case studies on the re-engineering environment in India. I used to listen to their lectures in Windsor Manor Hotel some time back. They spoke engineering, re-engineering to a very wide audience in India and abroad, and created an enthusiasm and interest in this field across the corporate sector, if you may say so. Now, how do we re-engineer? Is an issue. When I re-engineer, I say what is the it is something called BPR. It's called as business process engineering. How do I re-engineer an organization? If at all, I think I should re-engineer. So the flip side of re-engineering is the word called as vestigial activities. Vestigial activities. What do you mean by these vestigial activities? I define the word value. Activities which are non-value adding to the customer are called as vestigial activities sometimes. Any large organization, the way it operates, over a period of time, accumulates some vestigial activities. Sometimes these vestigial activities will be of a very enormous nature, which prevents organizations from giving higher order value to customer, is one of the word called vestigial activity is a very important part of business process reengineering. The definition of vestigial activities are activities that do not add value to the customer. I must think twice if I should have these activities at all, or can I get rid of them totally. Getting rid of such activities is also one of the aspects, or one of the not just aspects, one of the activities of the re-engineering process. How do I define a process? A process is a logical connected set of activities. A logically connected set of activities is what I call a process. If I've got vestigial activities of a very high nature within a process, the process by itself will be inefficient. So I have the job of removing some of the vestigial activities is one of the aspects of re-engineering, so that I get drastic benefits and I transfer these benefits to the benefit of the customer, or to the advantage of the customer. Now, I think to some extent, or to a large extent, I have defined to you what is re-engineering. It's not what we understand as a layman re-engineering. I defined it in few lines. And if you want, I'll define it again. Improving a process drastically, drastically, so that from where it was working before, I focus on getting a drastic improvement of any given process so that it gives increased value to the customer. I don't know where I can give you an example of a re-engineered process. See, if you ask me, an email today is definitely a re-engineered process compared to the letters that we used to send long back. That's why I told you there's so many re-engineering solutions in nature which we don't appreciate, because sending an information from one place to other place, the time has been reduced drastically. Even your WhatsApp is definitely some kind of re-engineered solution of mankind, because we communicate around the world with it. Compared to the written communications that I used to do just say 20 or 25 years ago, definitely re-engineered solution. We don't appreciate it as a re-engineered solution. It is definitely a re-engineered solution which is technology driven. The phalanx, what I told you about Alexandria, is a human reorganization. Today, here I am using technology to get higher order improvements, which has happened by out of spite, by nature, by force of technology and research that we do. Now I will come to how do you re-engineer an organization. In its practical terms, what is it? Point number one is process orientation. What do you mean by that? I try to understand the organization from all kinds of processes that organization involves itself in. That is the first step of re-engineering any organization. I must understand all the processes that are involved in that organization. I can club some processes, I can remove some processes. First step of the re-engineering exercise would be such kind of an activity. I can merge some processes, I can obliterate some processes, and I can add, if you want, some new processes, so that I have an optimal set of processes around which the organization works. In the process, I am removing vestigial activities or non-value adding activities. Now, having said so, first I am doing process identification. I'm trying to identify all the processes within the organization. What is the next step? I see which are these processes that can be re-engineered. I don't re-engineer all the processes. I only re-engineer some kind of process, which I feel can be re-engineered in some form. In some form. Now, I don't know. I was searching frantically to give an example of what is this re-engineering all about, where I use technology. If I go into a bus, as a bus, I find the conductor takes some in the long back. He used to give tickets with his what we call manually. He never used a machine. So to service a given bus of 50 people, he used to take 1 hour's time. Today he has a handheld device which he might be finishing his entire job in a matter of 10 minutes to be seen as re-engineered solution. Today all transport corporations incorporate handheld transaction processing devices so that uh, the issue of tickets is done more speedily, much faster, more efficiently than it was done before. That is a process. Issuing a ticket is definitely a kind of a process. Issue that will have various other kinds of activities. You have to, the conductor has to issue the tickets. After that, he has to report it to the manager concerned about this. It's a set of activities. Today, all these things are technology enabled and the whole thing. That's why it's more pleasurable to travel because the psychic costs are very less. You get a ticket almost instantly, unlike before where he had to manually or had to go about it manually, where he definitely took a much larger time to complete his work. The first step in re-engineering is to understand all the processes of an organization, obliterate processes if it can be, merge processes which you think can merge, and also add processes if you think they must be added. Now, what is the second step of the second step I said is that I choose a couple of these processes which can be re-engineered. Again, I'm telling re-engineering means I'm trying to create drastic improvements. Is the second step. I choose from among these processes some processes which can be re-engineered. Now, after I select the process, the third step is I re-engineer them. I re-engineer them. That's the most difficult part of the entire exercise of re-engineering. It should, technically, in many organizations, take some 6 to 8 months time, where I re-engineer. When I am re-engineering, it might involve the use of technology, or it might use various other kinds of inputs, people inputs, knowledge inputs, technology inputs, thinking inputs, managerial inputs, and material inputs of some kind, other kind, consultancy inputs, thought inputs. I have such kinds of inputs that go into re-engineering any given process. The world of today is largely re-engineered. I must say it's largely re-engineered because of we have got technology at our fingertips. But nonetheless, a business organization can face certain problems from time to time. It's a different realm altogether. Where I try to understand what these business organizations are all about, know what these processes are all about, and I am focused on certain processes which could be drastically improved. I think I've explained the steps very clearly. First, I identify processes. I use those processes. I obliterate some of them which were not needed. I merge some of the processes. Then I add processes if needed. Then I focus on certain processes which I can re-engineer. The third step itself, what I'm talking is re-engineering, where I need to put various kinds of inputs so that I can get a re-engineered solution. Then it comes into the actual activity of implementing these things on this across these processes. which can create some kind of dislocation. But that is the call of the management of the re-engineering process. I understand which is the management of the re-engineering process. But I implement all these things that will result in the re-engineering of the processes. I implement them, and I manage them so that they fit well into the emerging kind of a system that I'm trying to create. Then after I study the aftershocks. The final stage of the re-engineered solution is the fourth stage. It's also called as the benefit realization phase. I'm trying to fix this new system within the overall contours of the organization and physically meter in very tangible terms the kind of benefits that I am realizing from this. In case I'm realizing benefits, I can definitely add a small burden of that on the customer so that so that I get increased revenue is also, which means that what money, time, and inputs I put into the re-engineered solution, I try to what we call get them back, or I try to what we call compensate them, if you might use that word, compensate them through the benefits I get in the fourth phase called the benefit realization phase, because I can distinctly see the system is working much better than what it did before, giving me a platform to make many other drastic additions into the organization, which will increase the overall performance and operations of an organization. So I think I have thrown some light on this activity called re-engineering, because not many people speak about it, but it's definitely an issue of strategy change, to be used, to be understood, to be applied, to be embarked upon from time to time, to see that you improve the overall performance of an organization. It increases the value given to a customer. That is the idea behind this. This is the modern kind of thinking, which is different from the, as I told you, the Adam Smith's division of labor way of thinking of the past. Now I create a new environment where I am trying to add value to the customer. You can see to what extent technology has made penetrations into activities of commerce, business, and management. Can be viewed around when we look around the world. We look at ATM machines where I'm getting money. I don't go to a bank. As I told you, re-engineering is there everywhere. Sometimes we don't appreciate it as a re-engineered solution. I'm getting money out of the ATM machine. I'm putting money into a machine today. I need not go into physically into a bank and do work. Is definitely a re-engineered solution of banking. There are many kinds of such solutions which could be definitely come under classification of re-engineering, where I'm getting very high degree of drastic benefits. Today I use a plane to go from one place to other place. Tomorrow I might use some kind of a spacecraft system which would reduce the distance, reduce the time take even more drastically. I might travel a 300-kilometer distance in a matter of half an hour. Is it possible? It doesn't happen, not impossible. I must use some kind of space technology, get into space and travel much faster than what I do within the Earth's atmosphere. But largely, when I talk re-engineering, I'm talking of the business world per se and the various kinds of dynamics that it is subjected to, and the various kinds of pressures that it is subjected to, and more than anything else, the need for such activities have to be understood by management people and organizations and people who run a country and civilization. Wherever I can make drastic improvements, understanding of especially the removal of vestigial activities from time to time. See, many people have made mistakes in the way they re-engineered organizations because they never understood what it really was. So the re-engineering process must be embarked upon by very senior and experienced people without tampering into the key dynamics of an organization. That is not what re-engineering is all about. It is something that focuses on improving the value given to a customer through such kind of process improvements and process adjustments, which has to be embarked upon from time to time, so that I have a very lean, nimble, and a fast-acting institution which adds value to the customer. Thank you. This is P.O. Subhash from Bangalore, India.